There is criticism about the WTA. Additionally, this time, it goes beyond rankings and awards. Cash. Alex Eala, among the athletes' rising stars, have accomplished something that no one has anticipated. She's going to court with them. A game that ought to have honored her skill became a nightmare that revealed the negative aspects of professional tennis. What took place on that court wasn't only contentious. It was nothing, according to Eala's legal team, less than stealing. And now the entire tennis world is observing one player. Won't keep quiet. This is the tale of the spiraling effects of a single match into the biggest scandal women's tennis has seen in years. The name Alex Eala had been discussed in tennis circles for a long time, before the majority of fans were aware of her. Born in the Philippines, she carried the weight of a whole country's tennis dreams resting on her shoulders. By the time she was 17, she had already won a US Open title, junior title, making it the first Filipino to do so. It wasn't merely a victory, it was a statement. Southeast Asia was observing. The Philippines exploded with joy. And Alex, she was only beginning. The changeover from amateur to professional tennis, the circuit, is cruel. Careers with promise have fallen apart due to the pressure. The stakes are higher and competition is fiercer. Greater, and the error margin is about not present. However, Eala wasn't scared. She persevered through the contestants, persevering qualifying, fighting against ailments, and gradually moving up the rankings. Each victory felt deserving. Each setback taught her something. She was by early 2025 knocking on the top 50's door, and insiders in tennis were forecasting a breakthrough year. Next came the WTA 250 competition is the Luxembourg Open. That ought to have served as a springboard. Eala was pitted up against a superior ranked rival, but she felt secure. Her group had faith. The Filipino admirers who had come to see her perform were assured. This was meant to be her opportunity to demonstrate that she belonged to the elite, an opportunity to demonstrate to the world her junior success wasn't an anomaly. She entered that court, her eyes blazing, and the kind severe starvation that only results from years of sacrifice. Her initial serve was incisive. She used accurate ground strokes. She was playing her best game of tennis. Additionally, for a while, everything appeared to be going smoothly, just as intended. However, in a professional, nothing is ever sure in tennis. Moreover, what transpired next would be different. Everything. In addition to Alex Eala, during the duration of the sport, because occasionally the most significant conflicts are not fought with a racket. They're occasionally fought in courts. Additionally, this one was going to start. How could something go so wrong in a single match that results in legal action? Stay with me, because of what's going to happen next will surprise you. The initial set was electric. Eala had been having fun with strength and accuracy. She moved her opponent like a chess master, moving around the court. She was 6 feet 4 inches, and the audience was buzzing. Flags of the Philippines waved in the stands. Social media was already dazzling with highlights. This was everyone had been waiting for Alex Eala to observe. However, the second set is where things began to go apart. It started discreetly. A line call that appeared dubious. Eala's attempt struck the at least it seemed to be baseline. It was called out by the line judge. Eala looked at the clay's mark, her scowled, but she made no objections. Not quite yet. She would put that off till it truly made a difference. Then it occurred once again. And once more. Near misses that might have in any case. Everything appeared to go one way. Direction that was hostile to her. The fifth game in the second set, Eala struck what appeared to like a definite victor in the end. The audience let out a gasp. It was in. It must have been in. However, the call was made. Eala halted mid-celebration. Her face was a blend of frustration and incredulity. She walked up to the umpire and pointed at the mark. Her tone was forceful but calm. The ball was present. The mark is visible. The referee hardly looked down at it. The call is still in effect. Eala posed a challenge. The playback in slow motion demonstrated what all of the stadiums know previously. The sphere had captured the line. It was good. The phone call was flipped over, but the harm was already done. There was a lapse in rhythm. Her attention was broken. And the pattern went on. By midway through the second set, it seemed as though Eala was up against more than simply her rival. Every urgent call went the opposite direction, an important ace that ought to have pointed out a break point for her, despite the fact that replays later revealed cut the line. A let that wasn't called a serve that was obviously in contact with the internet. The pundits were beginning to take note. The supporters were beginning to whisper. Additionally, Eala was beginning to untangle. The second set was a 36 loss for her. However, the pain wasn't from the loss. It was the way it took place. When the third set got underway, the tension was oppressive. Eala attempted to try to filter out the noise. Refocused, she was shaken though. Her adversary, recognizing the change in momentum, performed vigorously, taking advantage of each Eala's armor broke. The last straw occurred in the third set at 45. Compliment point. Eala served, and the person she faced gave it back in a lengthy manner. Clearly lengthy. Eala lifted her arms in celebration, attempting to force a deuce, but the judge called it in. Eala stopped. The ball had at least 3 in beyond the baseline. The throng burst, not in fury, yet in celebration. Eala approached the net with beseeching eyes. Alongside the umpire. "You must verify that. Please." The umpire declined. Not a Hawkeye review, just a cold glance. No second glance, ultimate judgment. "It's match time." Eala got up, there for what seemed like ages, gazing at the spot on the floor where confirmed what was already known. Next, she went to her bench, turned, and silently packed her stuff. However, within, there was a broken item. Furthermore, it wasn't only her soul. The match was lost by her. However, is it truly a loss, or is it worse? The response would take the shape of a legal document that caused a stir via means of tennis. Alex Eala didn't cry during the press conference after the game. She didn't shout or accuse anyone. She's seated with a microphone in front of that table of her and talked with a low-key vigor. In some way, something was stronger than any it might have been an outburst. "I arrived here in order to compete. To play fair, I came here. Tennis. What took place outside today wasn't just. I'm not mentioning my rival. Did anything incorrectly. She engaged in her game. However, the officiating has never encountered anything similar, and I don't believe I ought to." What she said were cautious and measured, but the feeling there was no denying it behind them. When questioned, she paused to ask directly if she felt robbed, then uttered a phrase that would reverberate around the world of tennis. "I think each and every the player is entitled to their effort. Esteemed. Mine wasn't today." Inside the video went viral within hours. Snippets of the dubious calls were distributed millions of times. Analysts of tennis broke dissecting each contested point frame by frame. Former athletes shared their thoughts. Tweeting, Martina Navratilova said, "We've observed poor officiating in the past, but this was something different. Players are entitled to improved." Billie Jean King demanded reforms that happen right away. The hashtag Justice for Eala became a worldwide trend. However, not everyone had the same response. A few defended the authorities, claiming that errors occur, and Eala had to acknowledge the loss with dignity. Others made the observation that she had the chance to question and had not always made strategic use of them. There was division in the tennis community, and that there was heated discussion on all platforms. Fans from the Philippines were very outspoken. One of their own had witnessed what they perceived as flagrant abuse on a global arena. Videos of protest, requests, including boycotts, for the social media was overrun by WTA. The strain was growing, not only on the authorities who had been employed at that match, but on the complete women's tennis governing body. Additionally, just when it appeared that the controversy could disappear into the sports drama in the background, an announcement was made by Eala's unlawful team. That halted everyone's progress. She wasn't suing the WTA because she was upset. Distress, not for the purpose of defamation, but for what her attorneys detailed in the document as deliberate carelessness that led to the stealing of a chance to compete and monetary losses. The phrase they employed in the lawsuit would make headlines. For weeks, that dominated tennis news. Match theft. An action taken against the WTA. Not many players would dare. However, Alex Eala wasn't the majority of players. Additionally, what the crew discovered was much more unsettling. More than anyone anticipated. The legal action was filed in a global sports court, and when the information was made public, the tennis community as a whole gasped. This wasn't a straightforward grievance of poor officiating. The legal team for Eala had constructed a case that was thorough, devastating, and well thought out. The central this was the argument. The WTA had not succeeded in its obligation to provide equitable competition by using suitable officiating technology as well as instruction. The lawsuit made clear that Hawkeye technology was available and utilized in important competitions, although the WTA-sanctioned Luxembourg Open had decided not to apply it universally. Courts. The match between Eala and an external court devoid of technology in spite of her increasing status and the match's importance to her career trajectory. However, it was more than that. The Eala's team provided proof that the chairs she was given line judges and an umpire. Match possessed a history of contentious calls in earlier competitions. Internal emails were acquired. Judicial discovery revealed that the WTA had been notified of this officiating crew previously. However, they were still tasked with high-stakes work matches. According to the lawsuit, this pattern of carelessness had immediate consequences. The match, ultimately costing her rating points, awards, and potential places to sit. The monetary damages were measured. The instant disparity in prize money, the anticipated revenue from competitions she would have worthy of receiving a higher ranking, and the chances for sponsorship that had collapsed upon the loss of damage her speed. However, the most explosive was the part of the case in which thorough correspondence between WTA and tournament organizers. Text messages indicated that there had been pressure to continue playing on outdoor courts, accelerating and possibly impacting to avoid a protracted review, officials' procedures that might slow down the timetable. According to one statement, "We need 6 completed these matches. Keep things progressing." The lead lawyer for Eala released a quote that appeared in each prominent sports journal. "This isn't regarding a single poor call. This concerns a systemic inadequacy to safeguard athletes. When a company sets priorities logistics rather than equity, when they purposefully designate officials with troublesome pasts, when they reject participants' access to technology that might make sure justice is served, that is no coincidence. It's a decision." And Alex Eala is speaking up to declare that the option is not acceptable. Match stealing was a deliberate word. It was thought-provoking. It was intended to rephrase the discussion from regrettable officiating mistake to collapse of the institution with quantifiable damage. And it was successful. All of a sudden, this was not limited to a single player's grievance. The question was whether the WTA was taking adequate precautions to safeguard the sport's integrity. The legal action sought monetary restitution, but more significantly, it called for reform. Hawkeye is required at every WTA event. The courts, more stringent control of officiating, clear procedures for managing grievances, a thorough revision of how human judgment and technology met while playing tennis professionally. Alex in a conflict, Eala had fired the opening shot. That would change tennis for women. The question was whether the WTA would retaliate. Or would they fold? The WTA possessed a decision. Acknowledge errors or defend a system that was obviously broken. Their reaction would decide not just the result of particular instance, but the overall future of athletics. The WTA's first reaction was just what you would anticipate from a Big A sporting group that is in the public eye relationship nightmare. Being cautious, protective as well as strategically minded. Part of their official statement said, "The WTA is dedicated to promoting fair play and the best officiating standards. Although we understand each player's frustration after a challenging game, we uphold the honesty of our representatives and our procedures. We will examine Ms. Eala's assertions using the suitable legal avenues." Translation: "We won't acknowledge, we will fight this, no matter what." However, panic was developing behind the scenes. And there were calls from sponsors. Broadcast questions were being asked by partners. Other players were beginning to voice their concerns concerning their personal encounters with dubious officiating. The legal action has triggered a floodgate, and the WTA found it difficult to keep it contained. A few players openly backed Eala. Everything, Angeber tweeted. Perhaps the gamer has experienced this dissatisfaction. It's time for us to take action on Coco Golf uploaded a video talking about it. The significance of technology in removing human error. Bigila, Jessica told her personal tale of a meeting where poor decisions had altered the result. If we have the technology to fix, why don't we make use of this? Everywhere? However, some were more be careful. Some of the best players implied that Eala was exaggerating, that litigation wasn't the solution, and that gamers have to acknowledge officiating is never going to be flawless. One previous champion, using an alias to speak to a tennis journal, stated, "We've all made poor decisions. You go on." This litigation establishes a risky precedent. The argument was just as heated. Reporters commended Eala's bravery, portraying her as a leaker and revealing systemic issues. She was charged by others with being a bitter loser who was unable to cope loss. Op-eds showed up with titles such as, "Is tennis being saved by Alex Eala or destroying it?" and "When does advocacy turn into a right?" The competition sponsor of the Luxembourg Open in a discreet manner separated themselves from the occasion, issuing a declaration stating that they encouraged fair competition and looked eager to collaborate with organizers to guarantee the best quality. It was business jargon for "we don't want to be connected to this debacle." In the meanwhile, the WTA employed a well-known legal team, renowned for protecting athletic associations in situations with significant stakes. They submitted a motion to reject, claiming that athletes waive the ability to file a lawsuit over making judgments when they register during competitions. The Eala's team retorted that we're not covered by the waiver institutional fraud and carelessness. A full hearing was scheduled for the case, and the world's tennis lovers were riveted. To each update, sports weren't the only thing involved. News no longer. It was a period of culture, a discussion about justice, power, and if athletes were entitled to demand more from the organizations that controlled their professional lives. Next came the leak. No one but someone inside the WTA transmitted confidential documents to an investigative journalist for Sports Records revealed that the WTA had carried out an internal evaluation following a match and had really discovered that several officiating mistakes had took place. The review suggested disciplinary action against the officials participated and recommended modifications to stop such events in the future. However, the WTA had kept that review private. They had hidden it, and when the news leaked, the retaliation was swift and severe. How could they protect their officials, both in public and privately admitting had they erred? How could they defend Eala's case while seated on proof that backed up her assertions? Everyone was cornered by the WTA, eagerly awaiting their next move. The WTA was aware of everything along. The inquiry was no longer whether justice was at issue, and Eala was correct, would be served in reality, and what happened next would permanently alter tennis. Weeks following the release of the leaked documents, the WTA made public a new assertion. This one was unique. No corporate speak, no digression, only a direct recognition. Following careful evaluation, we acknowledge that mistakes occurred made while presiding over Miss Eala's match. Additionally, we acknowledged that our answer to her worries, inadequate. We're determined to do better. They denied any legal responsibility. Their lawyers wouldn't allow that, but they made broad announcements. From now on, all WTA competitions would have to put Hawkeye or anything like into practice. Technology on each playing field, not just center courts. A new independent oversight committee that would be in charge would be created with the participation of players, and they established a structured procedure for players to complain about officiating using clear inquiries and public responsibility. It wasn't all that as required by Alex Eala's case, yet it was noteworthy, and more significantly, it was acknowledged in public that there was a breach in the system. The lawsuit, the matter was resolved out of court. Although the terms were private, the sources near the negotiations indicated that Eala was compensated financially and, more significantly, an official apology. Issued a declaration stating, "This was it's never me against the WTA. This was about ensuring that no other participant must experience what I experienced." I am thankful that significant change is taking place. But this case has far-reaching effects, beyond the WTA, or even Alex Eala. It's initiated a discussion that's still taking place today. Should sportsmen have legal action when institutional do their careers suffer as a result of failures? How much should governmental bodies have authority over the individuals whose work produces their income? Additionally, in a time where technology can human mistake be eliminated, is there any reason not to utilize it? Other sports are observing. Other league players are posing comparable queries. The Alex Eala case has evolved into a point of reference for advocacy for athletes in all sports world. Regarding Eala, she has returned, playing tennis on the court that caused everyone to adore her in first. Her standing has increased, her self-assurance has returned, and she carries the information with her that she fought for more than herself. She stood up for each and every player. Following her, there are still some critics. Her for the legal action. They advise her to have simply moved on and accepted the defeat. Continue. Others, however, consider her a hero. Someone who was prepared to put her at risk repute, as well as her connections within the athletic ability to defend what was correct. The truth is most likely someplace betwixt. She isn't a bad guy, and she's not perfect. She is merely a player who, upon seeing, refused to keep quiet unfairness. And as a result, she transformed the match. The narrative behind Alex Eala's the WTA lawsuit is about more than compared to poor decisions or courtroom drama. It's about bravery. It's concerning responsibility. And it has to do with the kind dramatic transformation that only occurs when someone is courageous enough to insist on it. The game of tennis is better as a result of her actions. The technology is superior. The mistake is better. Players are now aware that they have a voice, and that is important. Well, will there be additional disputes? Naturally. Is officiating ever going to be flawless? Most likely not. However, thanks to Alex Eala, the system is rather more equitable. Moreover, it is worth battling for. If this tale made you reflect, if it affected your feelings, don't keep anything to yourself. Press the subscribe button. Give a tell me what you think in a comment. Did she depart too? Or was Eala right to sue? Far? And distribute this video to everyone who enjoys justice, tennis, or simply enjoys a good narrative about the underdog. Due to this is the outcome that occurs when the player declines to back.